Hey guys, Pete here. Once again, we made it to Saturday and there's some news to talk about and spoilers coming out of the Season 7 filming for Game of Thrones. This will be my weekly spoiler report and it will contain spoilers for everything that's going on related to Season 7. If you're not a fan of having things spoiled that might come up in the next season, then you're going to want to stop watching now. Make sure you check out one of my non-spoiler videos from this week though, because I'm having a book giveaway and I want you to enter. Everyone else can stick around to the end to learn more about that, and with the spoiler warning out of the way, let's jump into it. So overall, this was a pretty slow week, and it was kind of surprising since we had so much coming out of the set from the battle scene last week. In contrast, this week there's been pretty much no new footage that I've seen, except for a pretty big shot we get to look at the end of this video. So no new shots of the big ambush, but I guess we'll see some more of that maybe next week. First thing we heard this week was that the Game of Thrones show would be returning to Croatia, where they shot the King's Landing scenes for so many years. This isn't very exciting, other than, it might bring us a shot of something that we've seen in the past that they didn't want to shoot in Spain. Last year they said the same thing, they wouldn't be shooting there, and then they ended up shooting the scene where Jaime brought Marcella home and, it was on that beach that we had seen before. So there's some speculation here, but I don't really know without any more details what we can expect that they're shooting there. But apparently they're getting extras and they're shooting over a 2-day period. On Sunday night, Twitter started going crazy because they dropped a little mini glimpse at Season 7 on the pre-roll ad for coming in 2017 on HBO before Westworld. So a lot of people were talking about it, and I thought maybe there was a little bit more to it, but it's really just 3 quick images of Sansa, Arya, and Jon Snow. It's still pretty awesome to see Arya, especially on the horse, looking like a northernman, and it looks like there's snow behind her, so she's in the north. But really, it was kind of underwhelming once we got a look at the actual video, since it was such a short clip. Not sure that this really brings up any new information that we haven't already been talking about in the spoiler videos, so let's hope we get an extended version of this in the near future. Some casting news came out, and it could be pretty interesting as related to Arya's storyline. The first actor in particular, Brendan Morrissey, is said to be brought on to play a Frey's Lord in one of the Jeremy Podesta directed episodes. We know that he directed episode 1 and the season finale, so it's likely he'll be there in the aftermath of what Arya did at the Twins in episode 10 of season 6. We know she knocked off Walder while she was in the middle of feeding him Lothar and Black Walder. Something that's been on my mind was if we were going to see any more of the Freys after that point, knowing that in the books, Walder, old Walder, the original Walder Frey, was like 92 or 93 and had offspring all over the place. The show version, though, never really mentioned a lot of the different sons and grandsons and different things that he had, so it seemed like that could be a quick scene to end them off. But with this guy popping up, it looks like we'll probably get another Frey-Arya confrontation before she moves away from the Riverlands. Leak watchers will point out that there was some mention of this, that she might wipe them all out, so that could be a definite possibility. Either way, it's kind of interesting, and it would be nice to see the Freys and how things end up before Arya moves on. We don't know anything really about the second actor other than his agency said that he had a nice supporting role and that he was in Spain. So he could be basically anyone, and I just really don't know. If you guys have any guesses, make sure you leave them in the comments. Sophie Turner did an interview with Entertainment Weekly about what we could expect for Sansa as far as a turn in Season 7. Of course, we saw her at the end of Season 6 in a pretty good position, but there was that strange look between her and Littlefinger which made it unclear about how she felt about Jon being king in the North. When they asked her, she said that Sansa is seemingly in control for the first time and it really suits her. She's kind of having a bit of a power trip, but she's also becoming more insecure because there are threats to the power that she holds. So this could obviously tie into what we've talked about in past spoiler videos in relation to Littlefinger and his scheming. Turner went on to say, what overall excites me about this season is that the main characters are coming together and it feels like things are ramping up. It's really exciting and all feels like it's coming to a big conclusion. So that's exciting in that we know that some of the Stark siblings are probably going to be back at Winterfell. I'm talking about Arya and Bran, of course. So this seems to kind of back that up. Alfie Allen, who plays Theon Greyjoy, also had an interview, and whenever he was asked, he said, "It will be more of the same, but better. More dragons, more torture." That makes me worry. Like, I hope it's not Theon's torture that we're talking about here. We've talked about Theon and his story for season 7 in a couple of the older spoiler videos, so you might want to go back and watch those. But if you've been following along since I started making these, you know that he's probably going to do something that's going to get him in trouble with the Ironborn. Whenever asked about how his current emotional state was, Allen described Theon as skittish and full of fear, basically, and then that can kind of, I guess, evolve into rage, which you might see, who knows. He was also asked about how Theon will feel when he sees Jon Snow or Sansa again by the audience that was at this fan convention he was answering questions at. He corrected them by saying, "You mean if that happens?" and saying, "Gotta stop looking at the internet, guys." He did go on to answer the question as though it were hypothetical. I would say Theon would feel horrible. He'd feel awful. And he'd see it as a chance to redeem himself. This is kind of where I think his story's going, which I mentioned when we talked about that scene in the past video. So that's not a big surprise to me. The Mountain was also interviewed where he dropped something that is pretty innocuous in my opinion, but a lot of people got going and thinking about some hype, so I'll talk about that right now. When the Mountain talked to Express, he said that he could see that him and his brother might clash. He didn't know for sure. Basically, he said he could see it happening in the future because it looks like it would go that way because if you look at the story, it looks like that. Well, that's not really confirming anything as far as I'm concerned, you know what I mean? It's just sort of a thing. We know that those two are in the same place. You know that from my older spoiler video about the big King's Landing scene at the Dragon Pit that we're going to see. But we also know from that we didn't hear any report of them filming a scene like that. So Cleganebowl fans really got excited saying that he was basically letting it slip. But I don't really see that as the case. That, it's up to you guys what you think. But in my opinion, he basically said he didn't know if they would get into it. And I take him at his word. Beyond that, it was a quiet week up until the end. We got some drone footage of the Wolf Quarry site, which is pretty cool. But we already had photos of that showed it in more detail. It's kind of interesting, though. The video's out there. You can go and watch it. It's like 7 minutes long of the drone flying around the scene. You can't make out any actors or anything like that, though. We also got a bunch of photos from the Caceres set where they're getting ready to shoot. They're nice photos of the location, but there's nothing in there to give away what they might be or, what they might be shooting there. So we're just going to have to wait and see until those take off. Then at the 11th hour, a really big leaked scene popped up. And, it's by far the biggest news that we had this week. Last night I was shuffling through Twitter and I saw Winter is Coming had posted that there was a leaked scene. So I checked out their site. And they usually get scooped by Watchers on the Wall and some of the other ones. But this was the first I've heard of this. So I have to give them credit for bringing this out in the middle of the night in the U.S. So the scene was a 40-second scene that's been released on YouTube that's directly on the set of season 7, but it's hard to tell what exactly is going on other than someone obviously gets fireballed by a dragon. So the scene was at night. You can clearly see that there's, safety techs there and they're setting up for this scene, and we have a cloaked figure whose head's covered, which may be related to the fact that he's in his stunt gear more than it being indicative of the fact that the character who's being burnt would be wearing some kind of a cloak or hood. According to people who were able to make out the audio, the actor says, "No Khaleesi, what foul witchcraft is this?" Now, when you watch the video, there's a commentator speaking over top that speaks only in Spanish, so I don't know what he's saying. Other people are saying that while speaking Spanish, he says clearly James Faulkner's name, which is something that we've heard is going to happen because he plays Randall Tarley. But I can't say from the actual footage that this is something that we can look and say, hey, look, that is definitely Tarley right there. And if it is Tarley, why would he call her Khaleesi? I mean, I know it's one of her names, but it's an Eastern word. And it's directly related to the Dothraki, which if we know how Tarley is, he's not liking anybody who's not Westerosi, so that seems a little off to me. Maybe some of you guys who speak Spanish can, glean more from the actual recording based on what the commentator's saying, but it's pretty awesome to look at, even if we know that it's expected that some people are going to get burned by dragons. I also wonder, because there's going to be massive amounts of CGI involved, Like, for one, there's going to be a dragon added in there. You know, we don't see anyone standing next to the fireball, but we wouldn't see that in this kind of a scene. They wouldn't put someone who's a high-paid actor next to a volatile, dangerous situation. So again, what they say he says as he's rolling around in the flames is, "No, Khaleesi, what foul witchcraft is this?" I hope you guys will help me out with leaving comments about what you think's happening there. It's definitely ripe for speculation, so let's see what you guys think. That'll do it for this week. I hope next week we'll have some more battle scenes to look over. In the meantime, you know, if you're new to these spoiler videos that I put out, I've been putting them out once a week, so you want to go back and check out a lot of the older ones, some of the stuff we've learned leading up to this that's, you know, kind of putting us in the right direction as far as what's going on in these scenes. I have a complete playlist, which I'll link to at the end of here, that goes back week by week, and you can watch them all. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. And definitely subscribe so you can become eligible for my book giveaway that's going to be dropping pretty soon now based on the number of subscribers and how it's growing. When I reach 28,000 subscribers, I'll pick one comment from one of the videos that's eligible, and I will send that lucky commenter a copy of the latest 20th anniversary edition of A Game of Thrones. It's a nice illustrated edition, and it's great for a collection. And all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment in any video that I mention this giveaway. I'll leave a link to the book in the description so you can check it out if you haven't seen it yet. And with that, that'll end this week's video. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.